when we started, di ba parang when we made the proposal, ang usapan talaga natin, it is actually a reaction from the existing, parang theater condition. So really, initially, ang unang-unang impulse natin ay yung discourse. Kasi parang ang hinahanap natin nun, parang wala yung discourse tungkol sa theater, about new procedures in theater, or innovations in theater, or new practices in theater, or ano yung parang systemic na parang dapat mangyari so that any innovation or changes that we want to see and watch or do is possible. Kasi parang ang malinaw talaga, kung wala yung parang regular na pag-uusap ng mga tao para magdiskurso tungkol sa teatro, parang imposible talagang may mangyari na bago. So, yung Performance Research Network, yun talaga yung parang, of course, malinaw rin na hindi naman pwedeng puro discourse at wala yung product, di ba? But what we're trying to say ay dapat sabay siyang nangyayari. So, yung impulse ng Performance Research Network, aside from the performances that we do, we actually parang are thinking that this kind of processes is as important as the products that we do. Because in fact, dun lumalabas kung ano yung mga bigger questions so that when we do even our own productions, parang nandun yung seed ng kung paano tayo nagmo-move forward. Plus also, it seems that there is a big complexity in even trying to innovate something, di ba? It's like a big cultural discourse already. In fact, dun sa experiences namin nila Joshua recently, parang mas matingkad siya ngayon more than yung first time na ginagawa namin siya. At also, yung national condition is also parang affecting us so much. Parang dati hindi ganun kalaki, or at least to me. Ngayon parang hindi ka na pwedeng gumawa nang hindi nagkukonsidera ng kung anong nangyayari. Hindi lang sa ekonomiya, hindi lang sa lipunan, yung disaster, of course, is affecting so many things. All of a sudden, the project that we're doing is parang, it has become so contentious. Parang hindi mo alam kung paano talaga siya ipoposisyon. So, I think, because of that, mas mahalaga na mangyari to. At in fact, yun yung parang main impulse. And then, when we have written the NCCA proposal, actually, ito talaga yung main chunk niya. Hindi naman yung performances. Ang nangyayari lang, kasi yun yung palo ng mga grupo. So, ang ginagawa natin, sinasama natin siya. But as we are treading along with it, ang nangyayari, nakakalimutan uli natin yung pagdiskurso dahil nga all our energies, naturally, of course, dun napupunta dun sa performance na. So, that's why yung Performance Research Network now wants to parang integrate itself. Halimbawa, if Karnabal is doing this festival, let's support the festival, but also, let's find the platform na dun rin siya pag-usapan. So, yun yung general, I think, parang context. So, yun yung context. Ngayon naman, ano yung mangyayari ngayong hapon na to? So, ang ginawa rin natin, part of the Mabuhay Conference, meron tayong mga ginawang paper, di ba, na binasa natin. Pero, ang realization din, wala tayo dun sa mga araw na mga may papers tayong binasa. So, which means, we're actually also losing that opportunity to have that parang group reflexivity in a way that is our discourse. So, ang ginawa ko, since hindi yun nangyari, and we're having this now, and parang documented on video, we probably might as well read the papers again for us, and then either you want to read the whole thing, or you want to summarize it for us, yung ganon, or parang lay down parang just the parang highlights of that paper, and then from there, let's start. Ano yung mga conversations na lalabas based on what we are presenting? Also because, halimbawa, from a very parang personal perspective, ang dami ng tanong ko dun sa shows nila, JK, ano nga yung last show nyo? Yung Love Not Yet a Musical. Parang minsan kasi parang, di ba, dahil nga we're so critical of others' work, it has become our habit to actually also be critical of each other. So I think it's a healthier way of being critical of each other when we discuss it openly. Just to give you a background, so this is the first time that the Performance Research Network is gathering together to discuss our own works. So in fact, that's part of the initial impulse of why we want to create a network. There is, just to make the long story short, there is a big dissatisfaction about the way theater, the state of theater in Manila at least. So this is like a group of emerging theater companies, all independent, who wants to create their works based on those reactions. But then we also realize that actually to create new works, you have to like sit down together and discourse or discuss why you are doing these things, so that hopefully in the next productions we are really moving forward into something else. Plus, the Cultural Center of the Philippines has just invited us to become a partner for an experimental theater festival this February, February 2014. And this festival is being spearheaded by the Sipatlawin Ansam. So that's JK Anicoche. So it's the one of the first very independent theater company who's actually also trying to do a very independent festival. So they're using like 2 or 3 venues within the area, plus the National Commission for Culture and the Arts Auditorium. So I think just for the sake of our friends from Prince Claus Fund, I'll just read the rationale of the Performance Research Network, which is also good for us to actually remember before we go into the next step of the program. What we plan to do is to read some of the papers we have presented during a conference of the Performance Research Network, which was done, when was that? A month ago, in a Buddhist temple in Manila, which is also a partner of the Transitopia video, the Fo Guang Shan Mabuhay Temple. Okay? So, Performance Research Network. In the realm of the theater, there is an emerging wave of theater artists who see the urgency to come together and discourse on the challenges that theater is facing in the light of issues like sustainability, which in a wider perspective should not be viewed only within the realm of economy. Sustainability is also enmeshed in other aspects of theater as an art form, which includes matters regarding aesthetics and innovation, contemporary discourses that involve questions about new rehearsal and creation procedures, new function and relevance of theater in the 21st century vis-a-vis theater and cinema, Filipino-ness versus Asian-ness as counterpart to Western tradition, and a lot more. It is also in this context that three independent and contemporary theater companies in December 2012 come together to initiate the Performance Research Network called Present. Present is geared towards creating investigative and exploratory platforms addressing new modalities in performance, made up of Collab Company, represented by Maria Teresa Hamias, full name talaga. Sipatlawin Ansam, represented by Artistic Director Joseph Keith Anicoche, and Transitopia Contemporary Dance Commune, represented by Jay Cruz. It is the first network of its kind in the Philippines, which now includes Destiero Theater Commune, which is now represented by Joshua So. Present is a project partnership platform among independent theater companies whose interest towards the exploration of new modalities in performance, devising, directing, dramaturgy, performing, training, and writing are also experimentation and innovation in pursuit of a grounding in Philippine conditions and experience, not only through performances but through a multiple platform event that includes lectures, discussion, fora, to help create a more active and diverse community, not only for contemporary performing artists themselves, but more importantly, for an equally active, diverse, and supportive audience for theater. Yon. So, we all have made like a kind of our first work together as the network, and what each and every one of the representatives will be reading are experiences based on those works. So after we all have read it to each other, then that's when we kind of want to like discuss the differences of each other's work, and then new insights about works that we're doing, and maybe possibilities of working together in the future. And then also, I guess it's important to understand what kind of a direction the network would like to do. So a plan of action that we think is urgent for each and every company, and which is going to be urgent for the network itself. Okay, so let's start with Victor.
Let me just read a description of our group first, so that we have you can contextualize our shows or the kinds of plays that we do. Collab Company is a burgeoning group of independent theater practitioners committed to the creation of performance pieces showcasing strong ensemble work that inspire, disturb, and provoke. Most of our members have trained together as affiliates of Tanghalang Pilipinos Actors Company of the Cultural Center of the Philippines. They continue to hone their craft through studies in performance and collaborations with individuals and communities in other fields. As an organization, we seek to promote critical thinking and new directions in productions, thereby introducing an alternative perspective to our audiences through workshops, lectures, and fora. Aside from reimagining classic texts, the company continues to generate new works. The members of our group strive to nurture the growth of Filipino artists and audiences for a constant birthing of new works and new ideas towards a vision of a more open, creative, and dynamic community. Currently, we have 2 available shows for touring. We have Faustas Deals with the Devil, and another production is showing later at 7 p.m. at the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. It's entitled At Home. At Home is a devised work that delves into our perennial attraction to the concept of home. The home is conceived as a stable and secure foundation, but it can also be a starting point for insecurity. Hence, not a stable foundation as one may think. Currently, there are 9 million Filipino migrant workers, mostly female domestic help, working in over 200 countries. With the advent of new media such as Facebook, Twitter, Skype, and FaceTime, e-parenting has opened up a new form for Filipino parents who have to work abroad as migrant workers. The internet has made them significant again in their children's everyday lives. Okay, for a brief background of our other production called Faustas Deals with the Devil. Faustas Deals with the Devil, machinated and played by Tess Hamias, noise and silence programmer J. Victor Villarreal, Faust as Machine, Ajay Candelaria, Jojo Cayabyab, J. Cruz, Vince De Jesus, Erica Esteban, Vlad Gonzalez, Diego Maranan, Paul Morares, Joshua Serafin, Naomi Villa. Our special thanks go to J.K. Anicoche, Nina Bedrus, Jose Estrella, Herbie Go, Ed Lacson Jr., Leroy New, the Sipatlawin Ensemble Performance Research Network, UP Dulang Laboratorio, and the Collab Company. Faust as Repertoire. The Wonderful Horrible Life of Leni Riefenstahl, Pandora and the Terrible Jar of Hope, Dr. Faustas in Her Study, Lady Macbeth in Malacanang Palace, Eve on Judgment Day, and an epilogue, No Death, No Fear by Thich Nhat Hanh. Faust, from the canonical dramas by Goethe, Marlowe, and Mamet, tells the story of a desperate doctor who binds himself to some malevolent supernatural force promising to give up his soul in exchange for knowledge, fame, youth, fortune, immortality, or whatever else one would consider as the ultimate source of happiness. While we find the paradigm too Catholic and occasionally misogynist, we frame our borrowed plot staging Faust as woman, with performances of Faustian women throughout history, from literature, sacred texts, documentary films, and pop culture, women whom we believe may have had the same pact with the devil. The genesis of Faustas deals with the devil came from an impulse to create new work. The deal with Tess was to make a one-woman show using texts of Goethe's first book of Faust. It was to serve two purposes, mainly directing finals for her postgraduate degree in theater and also to add to the list of Collab Co's repertoire of touring shows. Well, surely we would not use Goethe's text in its entirety. That would be too tedious for a Pinoy theater goer to relate to. And not everyone has read Faust. Not everyone has read Goethe, and they may not be familiar with the myth of the old Parisian doctor of medicine who sells his soul to the devil. All we had to do was to string together story parallels to the Faustian myth canon, be it from historical accounts, literary materials, sacred texts, blogs, online archives, books, tabloid journalism, and at this point we would like also to thank millions of YouTube subscribers broadcasting themselves to the world for their contribution to the authorship of our program. Women throughout history and lore who may have been Faustian. We needed characters who were both known and unknown, from classic silhouettes to contemporary iconic images, gossip threads and tweets, quotes from real people, dead or alive, fictionalized or unadulterated, cold hard fact. We needed a formula to filter through which Faustian character to stage. First, we wanted an artist. Tess chose her favorite filmmaker, Leni Riefenstahl, known to be the greatest female filmmaker of her time, to which she replies, "What is a great female film?" So, to conclude, what makes a character Faustian? The truth is, we don't know either. We don't know exactly what it takes to make it to the list. There is no formula to Faustas deals with the devil.
I think my first reaction when I saw Faustas, I was actually impressed by the performance of Tess, and I think it has been parang a three year of conversation with her, wherein I'm urging the new theater companies to actually start working and creating solo works, because when the World Dance Alliance started the parang contemporary dance network, parang the contemporary dance industry is already creating new artists and new works via the idea of solo works. So when I saw her perform, I think parang what I wanted to tell her is that I think it's about time that maybe collab company can also start creating that as a platform, because a lot of your members are already seasoned actors and actresses, and they've had like a wide experience in performing. But the next question the question that I really wanted to ask is, why are we still creating Faust in this period? Parang what do we really get from such character as an archetype, if we're seeing it as an archetype? And if we are performing that within the context of the Philippines also, parang I think at some point what I was looking at is, how do we make it relevant for us, and why are we putting that much of an effort to know a European character like Faust in relation to my, I think, position as a Filipino artist also?
I think we've answered that in the play itself, because we only used the Faust character or the Faust canon to describe its other parallels, because proving that it is a universal subject. In this age where everyone is trying to amass wealth for progress, that can be parallel to the corruption happening in our own country. So it's very relatable to everyone, I guess. And we have Filipino characters also in the play that describes this kind of condition.
More urgent to actually have all Filipino characters who can be related to the kind of the Faust archetype, and then we can like see that whole range of it within the midst of our own experience. That's just a question. Hindi ba mas okay kung puro Filipino characters talaga yon na parang binuo natin, and in that case it creates a kind of a cultural discourse which is East and West, or Asia and also Europe in that case?
Well, I think as an experience, dahil everyone who contributed to the creation of this project was Filipino. Even the points of view is Filipino, even though some of the characters are not Filipino. Because we cannot just study our own country to learn from it. We have to study also its context, that it's just one of the countries in the world. And if we choose to put all Filipino characters in Faustas, it defeats the purpose of wanting to learn more, because we also need to learn the context of this occurrence.
I think it's also the matter of expanding the discourse instead of making it insular, no? That's why you add it. Although I'm very ano rin yung variable na it's she's a woman who takes in the role of Fausta. So is there like an angle na you consciously decided that it has to be a woman more than the fact that it was Tess who's going to perform, or is it like a reclamation of these characters, or going beyond that she is a woman, she's more than that, doing these roles?
Was it a conscious effort? Do you mean to? Yeah, it was. We wanted to stage a Faustian character that's not misogynist. So in a way, it sort of embraces womanhood in its own identity.
And also like a subversion of those, kasi there are male characters as well who are...
It's not. I think it's defiance more than subversion.
Actually, my comment on the work is that, and then now that you've read, I mean, your kind of a paper on the background of how you went about creating that particular work, is that, yeah, that question of what is Faustian, and then you concluded that we don't know what Faustian is, what it is. And actually that's my main criticism or comment on the work when I saw it, that I'm actually fascinated with the archetype of Faust. I think, as I've told you in our discussion before, that I think the Faustian character is very Luciferian. The idea of wanting to be God or becoming God, I think that's central to the identity of Faust. And somehow from the works that I saw that you have kind of pieced together, that, I mean, that doesn't seem to be very evident. That's why I was even wondering why would you even consider, for example, Pandora as Faustian, when it seems to me that Pandora doesn't, the character of Pandora is not Faustian at all.
Wanting to learn, diba? That's wanting to learn and giving up your soul for it. That is Faustian. Because the title of our production is Faust As Deals with the Devil. So what we think, women throughout history whom we think may have made the same pact with the devil. Parang ganun.
what kind of audiences or parang sectors of audiences have seen this kind of work, and is there any insight about how you think this kind of work is parang being responded to by different kinds of audiences? Is it like an easy parang play to actually really understand or access? Or what sort of questions do people really ask after watching it? I remember when someone asked about the title and Tess says Faustus, it takes a long time to realize, wait, what again? And so you really have to explain the title. So I think that's also like the kind of complexity the kind of devising works actually entail these days, that it needs a lot of explanation for us to.
But was that a conscious decision because it's under an academic institution when you where you first staged it? So if you're in an setup of an academy, you say Faustus, it's ta-da, it's that easy.
And also, I think explanations or having to explain yourself is important because, as evident by this table discussion for today, because we have performances, yet we need to talk about it right now.
Well, I think it has been the anxiety of the contemporary artists that you're trying to innovate, but you're also kinda like working on a new ground, and then it takes a while for people to kinda like warm up into it. So I think, yeah. So any other question?
So it may not be for everybody. You think?
Yeah,
is that
I don't
the
think
parang
so.
solution? So does it mean that we should?
I think we should have a production centered on maybe niche markets para rin hindi so that our markets also won't be saturated. Yeah. So we have a production for like the academics perhaps, from in the academic circle, or learning German literature or European literature. So Faustus would be for them. No, for a more general patronage kind of audience, we have At Home, which explores home and family, and that's for everyone.
But isn't that, sorry, now it starts to parang open up other questions, but isn't that also like a classical positioning of mainstream theater company? Are we also mirroring that kind of a psyche as we create our own works? Isn't it better to, this is just a question, isn't it better to really like establish a specific venues who are creating this specific kind of works? And so then in that case, institutionally, you're creating a kind of a balancing in relation to a mainstream theater company.
Can I answer? Okay, I'll answer from Sipatlawin's experience, or at least how we look at defining audiences or creating works for specific audiences. Yes, at times we have very specific audiences, but what we say about the works that we should do on the basic level or on the surface, it could be understood or felt. We even acknowledge the idea of feeling as thinking, entry point of wonder, just with that wonder. And even if they don't go as deep as academic understanding or conceptual, philosophical, and do all that discourse in performance, it can still cater. And it doesn't really draw lines. So it's like para siyang paradox. It's a little bit ironic, and because you're creating performances that are, let's say, we have pieces, we do works outdoors that are commentaries on the current Philippine theater system, but we are doing it with the general public, and they really don't get that those winks in the eye, as we call them. But but artists can talk about it in such ways. But then, when an audience member see it and they just look at it from the entry point of wonder of your work as a possibility, then I think we've done our work there. That's just one thing to consider. I think I haven't seen Faustus, but just seeing a one-woman show and and merging all this literature together and creating a new work out of it, even if I'm assuming that I'm not really I'm not well versed with literature, and just seeing the technicality of it and even the spectacle of a woman creating that commentary on that surface level, then I think that's also one way of defining the idea of accessibility. So, ewan ko, yeah.
Diba? Organically,
I think
that
you
was
answered
like-
it for me.
So, sige.